Section86.com. We're changing the world of podcasting one show at a time.
86 Productions.
Take what you wanna take. Don't leave me here. Lasting leap years ever your fear of the one and only love.
Hello and welcome to Off the Mark, the best podcast providing the most in-depth insight and analysis into the world of professional wrestling. On today's show, we have Aaron, Roger, and Doug to join Andrew as we discuss this month's View from the Turnbuckle. So let's talk about the Evolution pay-per-view, the all-women's pay-per-view. Aaron, what are your thoughts on it?
It was good. It was interesting. I feel like it had a very good flow to it for the most part. I think that where they put the matches on the card for the most part was a good spot for them. You kind of start off with, having Trish in there and Lita for kind of that big Legends pop. You move to the Battle Royal, and then, of course, you have the belts on the line for the remaining matches. So that was good. The only kind of downside to me really was actually the Ronda Rousey Nikki Bella match. I feel like that was such a foregone conclusion that match was just kind of unnecessary. But to discuss the Battle Royal, I think that the Battle Royal was fairly well done. I would have liked to see some more kind of surprise participants in there, whether it be from NXT, Mae Young, or even, some of the past legends that you might see in there. Obviously Tori Wilson was kind of cool to see and everything, but I know that it was a super long shot, and I doubt that was going to happen. But like AJ Lee. AJ Lee was a very big part of the women's revolution, and I get why she wouldn't be there. But it's just one of those things where it'd be like, man, if she was there, it'd be kind of cool. It'd be a cool spot to like have her show up. Even though I knew, like I said, it wasn't going to happen. But Battle Royal was kind of neat. Nia Jax won. She gets a shot at the Raw Women's title, probably at the December pay-per-view, while Ronda focuses on Becky for the Survivor Series pay-per-view. So I think it'll be kind of cool. Should be good.
Glorified house show, maybe? I think a lot of the matches would have been a little bit more entertaining or something if there was more on the line or storylines leading up to this pay-per-view would have dealt with it more. You never heard them talk about the Mae Young Classic on Raw or SmackDown. They never talked about the NXT title being defended at the pay-per-view on Raw or SmackDown. And looking at, like Aaron said, Ronda and Nikki was a foregone conclusion. You don't really need to watch the match. There was only a couple matches you really needed to watch, or probably even most of the people cared about, and that would have been Becky versus Charlotte and the Battle Royal. Other than that, I really didn't see anything that was so like something that I wanted to watch. It's nice to see Lita and Trish Stratus come back, but to fight Mickie James and Alicia Fox? No.
Mickie James and who, Doug?
Alicia Fox.
I mean, I don't really have much to add other than what Doug said, because to be quite honest, not only was this a glorified house show, it wasn't focused on at all. It was basically an afterthought. It didn't feel important. This, for something that was supposed to be, revolutionary and showing how far the women have come, you put divas in the main event against Ronda. That basically was a step back to 10 years ago when the wrestling was terrible. You had a fantastic Charlotte and Becky matchup that's had a good feud. The rest of the matches kind of felt thrown together or unimportant. I mean, I don't know why you don't have a tag title for this division yet. Most of them aren't doing anything. You never really heard them talk about the NXT Championship or the Mae Young Classic. So unless you follow those things, you have no understanding of why this is that important. It's a shame that this was not promoted much more than some of their other events, because if this were done properly, aka done by Triple H, when Sasha and Bayley were the main event of NXT, it felt special and it felt important. Did not feel like that at all.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point too with Sasha and Bayley. They could have actually said, like, we're gonna wrestle this match. We just want to show that we can tell a great story in the ring and focus more on that besides, hey, let's just be in a tag match for no reason. And it was a glorified house show. I didn't like the set as well. I thought that's their house show set. They should be using something more elaborate. And, this is a good step in the right direction, but I think we're all agreeing that it's just a glorified house show, unfortunately, in this case. But, oh well. But something that did happen that was really cool was that Tony Storm won the Mae Young Classic. Roger, what did you think about her being the one who wins it.
I mean, I expected her to win. She was my favorite going in, and I think that's a great thing. I absolutely adored Toni Storm's match against Shayna at the big UK event in what was it, Royal Albert Hall. She's fantastic. I think she has the right look to succeed, aka she's blonde, but she can go in the ring, and she's a good character so far. I think she'll do very well in the NXT UK brand. I think is where she's assigned to, so most likely she'll get a title shot against the women's champion over there. Good idea. One thing I guess this does highlight, not to be too negative, but they've done 2 Mae Young Classics, but haven't done a second Cruiserweight Classic. Very strange. Very, very strange.
Yeah, that I do agree with you on that. I hope they bring that back. That's something that was so great because they said just wrestle, and yeah, they need to bring that back. Hopefully they do. I would love to see it happen like in January. That would be a really cool thing for them to do. So Doug, Tony winning. Do you think that she deserved to win in this case, or do you think that it was more looks than her technical abilities?
No, I think, yeah, she does have some great looks, but she is a great wrestler, like Roger said. And the only thing that this, I think, did more too is to advertise their UK NXT a little bit more. That's why they gave her the win. Also, though, you had a Japanese Star win last year. So are you really going to do Japanese Star versus Japanese Star right away? But obviously, when Shayna won, that wasn't going to happen either. But I didn't see them just continuously going with Japanese Star winning. So kind of predictable, but at the same time, Tony is a phenomenal wrestler, and I look forward to watching her and what she does in NXT UK or even regular NXT.
Yeah, and I actually thought that she was going to win the previous year. To be perfectly honest, I think that the look I think is going to be the biggest thing that's going to help her, and the wrestling ability. So. Anyway, but to move on to the next kind of biggest thing that happened for the Mae Young Classic, Becky and Ronda both retained their titles. And so this is one we've already talked about. Ronda, kind of dumb to have that match. Becky, though, this one I was actually a little surprised about. I kind of thought that WWE was going to essentially kind of Roman Reigns Charlotte and, kind of force her down people's throats, even though Becky was getting the chairs as the heel. And Charlotte was getting the boos as the face. I was actually a little surprised that Becky won, but I was very happy to see that. Andy, I believe you had picked Becky to win, or did you pick Charlotte for your pick?
Pretty sure I picked Becky because I didn't think
He picked Becky.
I didn't think that I thought that it would be a bad thing to have Charlotte win here. I think if you have Becky retain, I didn't want any title changes was the big thing. And there was one, but I just didn't think that would be the right time to do it. If they were going to do something like that, I think it should actually go till like Royal Rumble. Make the title feel like it's something, like it means a lot. And like, look at someone like, we'll just say like AJ Styles. He's had the title for a long time. And I think Becky should have the title for a long time as well. And then maybe have her lose it. Like if she was to lose it at Royal Rumble, I'd be like, all right. Or if she was to lose it at WrestleMania, I think I'd be okay with that as well. But overall, both the matches were really great. Becky and Charlotte tore it up. Nikki Bella was just kind of there. I honestly, I think I almost would rather have like even like Natty wrestle or someone else wrestle Ronda for the title. I just didn't think there's no point to that because Nikki Bella was not going to win, and she was very sloppy in the ring, I felt. And yeah, I mean, I can keep bashing that match all day long. I mean, and it also went on too long. That should have been almost like a Brock Lesnar style match. It shouldn't be where, if she throws a punch, she should be going down right away. But anyways.
Yeah, and actually to your point, Andy, I think that knowing that Survivor Series they were doing the people versus the other people, I think then we probably would have all picked Becky because they're not going to do Charlotte versus Ronda yet. They're going to save that match. And I thinking about it now, I wasn't sure if they were even going to do it this year, but obviously they're going to.
Yeah, I think they're going to save that match for like WrestleMania possibly. I think that's the way to do it, but I just don't want Charlotte to beat her for it. I think that's the wrong move to make because I think that Ronda needs to look even more powerful. Like when you see Lesnar, when Lesnar's from UFC and he comes in and he's just powerful, I just think that she should be that way too because she's pretty much the best women UFC fighter ever. So why not focus on her that she can kick anyone's butt? But
well, there's 2 women in the UFC that would debate that. But anyway, Roger, you also picked Becky. Is it because of what I had said earlier, and you were kind of thinking, hey, there's no way that they're going to do Charlotte versus Charlotte versus Ronda, or did you have other reasons?
Both. I believe that Charlotte versus Ronda, especially with the announcement earlier in the week, is probably your WrestleMania main event. If I had to probably put like my favorite right now, so you don't do that match at Survivor Series. That is a perfect time for Ronda versus Becky. I think also you don't want to cut the legs out. You want to avoid a Bray Wyatt situation where you cut his legs out before she gets to do something special. And Charlotte's got enough wins. Like she doesn't need to win this match. She doesn't need to win this feud. So I went with Becky more so because it made more sense, and I didn't think that Charlotte was going to get it back yet. I think she will win the Rumble this year for the women's side and then challenge Ronda on Raw. So I think this is her transitioning out of SmackDown. And you know what? Look, I'm excited at the prospect of Becky down the road. But because you think about if Charlotte goes to Raw, somebody big probably comes to SmackDown. That means maybe we finally get Sasha over on SmackDown. Maybe we get Bayley on SmackDown. We're lucky we get both. That means we could get Becky versus not only Asuka, Becky versus Naomi could be interesting. Becky versus Bayley could be really interesting. Becky versus Sasha could be, that could be fantastic. So I really like the idea of a heel Becky Lynch champion. Let her keep going. She's going to lose the Survivor Series to Ronda. There's no question about that. But let her go strong into the Rumble or Mania, and then you can really have a fun match that we've been built up to.
I picked Charlotte, and I think it was more along the lines of one, I didn't actually know about Survivor Series, but even then, I would still probably pick Charlotte due to the fact that I could see them tease the WrestleMania kind of build up, though. But to have Charlotte versus Ronda at Survivor Series be the match that you want to have and see and get buys for, but then have Becky run down and interrupt that match before it even really gets started, so you don't get to see a real actual match. And then continue the feud between Becky and Charlotte, because that's what WWE likes to do, is they like to continue feuds for 2 years too long. And this is something that they haven't set up a good number one contender aspect for Becky or Charlotte, whoever would have won that match. So I was kind of expecting Charlotte to win just so that they could continue Becky versus Charlotte, because other than Asuka, who was the last person to beat Asuka? Oh yeah, that's right, Carmella. Ugh. Carmella beat Asuka. Are you really going to go back to Asuka as your dominant person? Asuka wasn't even in the top or the final four of the Battle Royal.
That's an argument from fallen from grace at this point. That might be it, unfortunately.
That argument, I would like to see who else you could put instead of her. Like, legitimately, I don't know anyone else whose star went from undefeated superstar, and maybe I think she was our Woman of the Year 2 years running. Mm-hmm. To was she even at SummerSlam?
No, she didn't wrestle.
Yeah, that is the Fallen Star of the Year. Spoiler alert: you don't need to watch the award show for that one, guys. It's her.
I was going to say, Roger kind of spoiled one of my predictions, which was going to be that now that we've seen this, Charlotte is going to probably win the Royal Rumble for the women's side, and like he said, go on to face Ronda at WrestleMania, which is where they should battle. But I don't think there's a problem with teasing it even earlier, like a Survivor Series where you have something. I've been waiting for them to do the 4 Horsewomen versus the 4 Horsewomen forever, but that just seems to be another thing that they keep putting on the back burner, and eventually it'll happen. But what better time than maybe Survivor Series? So you don't even have belt versus belt. You would have had it all set up for 4 Horsewomen versus 4 Horsewomen. But we did get a nice feud between Becky and Charlotte. I don't think you can really pull off that match at Survivor Series now due to that history. But I'm happy for Becky. I'm glad she won.
Actually,
but I fear what she's going to do.
Why it was very interesting is that imagine like a heel Becky, because all the other 3-4 horsewomen are faces. So you have a heel Becky whose agenda, maybe she clips Charlotte's leg just to be a jerk and then walks out. And then you have a heel Shayna Baszler who maybe at some point she attacks Ronda just to be like, I'm coming for you. You could have really had some interesting 4-on-4 storyline matches where not everyone's going to get along on the teams. It's not about Raw versus SmackDown. It's about, I don't know, Becky and Shayna want to do their own thing. So I think that could have been a good way to tease that and still get everybody involved, as opposed to a one-on-one match that, what's the odds of Becky winning? 5%? 1%? 0.05%? I wouldn't put any money down on Becky winning, no matter what you gave me on the odds.
Now, the other thing that happened was that this is the first time that a women's NXT title has been, defended, on a WWE pay per view. So we had Baszler versus Sane, and Aaron, what did you think about the match and the outcome?
It was a fine match. You know, we've seen him wrestle before. Watching the end and seeing the other four horsewomen get involved in the match, it started to make sense. It's like, oh, okay, we know who's going to win this now. And if anything else, I will say that Baszler has really grown as a competitor. She's somebody who you take a look at her body work the previous year, and it's like it's lackluster, I think. But to see what she's been able to do, and like I will say this too about her, I don't like her in a good way. Like I personally do not like the character. It's a bully, and it's somebody that like you look at her and it's not like, you know, and I hate to say this about women's wrestlers, but you know, a lot of times you look at one and you're like, oh, you know, is she pretty? Or, like she is like just a like I don't even know how to describe it, but she just looks like a bully. She looks like somebody that there's no way that you can cheer her. You know, like in Alexa Bliss, right? You look at her and you're like, oh, she's kind of like that mean girl, you know? But like you can like kind of get behind her, and Baszler you can't. So I don't know if I'm making sense, you know, in kind of my analysis of it all. But like I don't like her in that good way, which means that if like we went to like when we go to NXT, you know, for Phoenix, I'm gonna boo the crap out of her. Like, and I'm gonna be happy to boo the crap out of her. You know, unlike, you know, when you do it for like a Roman Reigns, you know, you're booing him because you didn't like what's, you know, how they're pushing him, or like when it's a, you know, I don't know, like a Miz or something along those lines. So I'm rambling a little bit, but hopefully that made sense on kind of, you know, what happened with Baszler and with Kairi Sane.
You're just scared that she could actually beat you up, aren't you, Aaron?
She would. She would. Honestly, like I know that she would be able to.
Aaron's the guy who boos her until she turns around and immediately stops.
He
I
points
saw
at the
that
next
gif.
guy. He's like, he's the one doing it.
I love that gift. I love that. Like she turns around and he's like, oh, boo.
Decent match. I do like that they got the other four horsewomen involved just so that they can at least be relevant. But at the same time, I'm kind of surprised at this. If you were going to have one person repeat as NXT Women's Champ, is Shayna Baszler really the one you want to get behind to do it? That's to be answered later probably, but I like Shayna Baszler. I think she's really grown as a wrestler, even to a point where I think she's actually a better wrestler than Ronda Rousey is right now. She makes it believable. I think a little bit more that she can lose. Especially when we saw her at the UK show with Toni Storm. I thought that was a breakout match for her, where you actually legitimately thought Toni Storm might actually win. Honestly, when she faces Kairi Sane, I look at both of them and I just logically, there should be no way Kairi Sane even has a foothold on Shayna Baszler. She looks that dominant. I mean, she even scares me. So I like it. It's fine, but I kind of curious where they're going to go from here.
I like Shayna Baszler's heel character. I don't like her speaking, mostly because she doesn't seem to have the voice that I think fits the type of character that she is. I think she does the bully character, and this is kind of to the point that Aaron said, very, very well. Like, she is not the type of person that I'd want to get behind. I think kind of to maybe expand on Aaron's point, I think the difference is that, so typically when we watch wrestling, for the most part, traditionally, we've watched men. So we've watched it from a maybe, I don't want to say objective, but a different viewpoint than, let's say, a female viewer, who a lot of female viewers, for example, like Randy Orton, regardless of what his alignment is, because they think he's cute. So then when you go to the flip side and you go to women's wrestling, attractiveness does fall at like an Alexa Bliss, whereas, you know, if a female was watching it, they don't give a crap how attractive Alexa is. They think she's a mean girl and she's bad. Or Shayna Baszler, where she's, you know, a bully and she's fantastic. What I like about Baszler is that she does what Nia Jax can't do. She convincingly looks like somebody who will hurt you, and not hurt you because she's sloppy, but she will hurt you because she doesn't like you. And that type of character has never really been done. I think Awesome Kong was pretty good at that in Impact, but you've really never had somebody who kind of just was going to show up, mess you up, and there was nothing you could do about it. And it's a shame that we never saw her against Asuka. And it's a shame that we haven't seen her against Ronda yet, because I think you need a dominant heel like that to really put over these faces and overcoming, because right now, all the dominant women, I mean, Alexa Bliss dominated for a year. Alexa Bliss is 5'0". She shouldn't be dominating anyone. But you replace her with a Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler dominating for a year makes sense. She could beat up half the guys. Like, it's real, it's reasonable, and I think that's a good thing. So I really, really hope Shayna goes to the next level, but she needs a mouthpiece. She's an okay talker with a strange voice. I mean, look, we love Brock. He's the most dominant WWE character I think since Hogan, but without Paul Heyman, it's a very different story. I think Shayna Baszler's in that same boat.
Yep, I agree. So let's turn over to Raw. We always talk about Roman Reigns, it feels like, but Roger, what's going on with Roman Reigns right now?
Sadly, he had another bout with leukemia. To my knowledge, I don't think it had been released before that he had it. So this came as a surprise to everyone. And he is out indefinitely as he fights this disease. I will say this. I think all of us have been in agreement that while we may have disagreed with the character, the person himself was not the type of person that we'd wish this on. Obviously, I think we hope, he comes back and beats this disease, because while the character was annoying, the person by all accounts seemed like a great guy. This sucks for anyone. There are very few people in the world that I wish this on. I hope he comes back. I hope he gets through this. And it's a major blow, like, not to be crass about it, but he was clearly the top guy. They spent 2 years, or 3 years, or however long you want to go, building Roman Reigns up to finally beat Lesnar at SummerSlam, only for him to have to essentially vacate the Universal Championship, which I swear Vacant has the most Universal Championship reigns right now. And it's like, all right, now where do we go from here? So, it sucks. I wish I could say that, like, it's, if this were an injury or a suspension, I'd be like, oh, well, that creates an interesting hole. But I don't know. Something feels icky about being like, well, his cancer creates a very interesting hole at the top of Raw. It's kind of like, no, like, I don't know. That sucks. It just is a big crappy situation all around.
I agree. And like Roger's saying, this is just it's a horrible time. One, to get it in at any time is horrible, but he finally made it. He finally got to his where he was going to hold the title for quite a while. To have this come back and stop it, it does stink for the Samoa named Joe. I wish him well, just because like Roger said, he is probably a great person. And everything that I've heard from him in the background and everything like that, he helps out a lot of the younger talent and everything. So hopefully he comes back, and maybe this is when he does come back, he'll get a proper push and a proper run, and people will cheer for him. So good luck to him.
Yeah, and I definitely echo your guys' thoughts. And, I would say one of the things about Roman Reigns is I feel like if they did the character correctly, that they would have gotten those cheers to start off with. He came out there knowing what he was about to say, knowing what he was about to do, and people were booing him. Like, I would have been booing him. And then he's like, I have leukemia. And it's like, pin drop. It's just like when Daniel Bryan, retired the first time and said that, he had all these concussions. It just, like, it drops. The house just came down at that point in time, right? And I feel like Roman at that point in time just turned to be the biggest face that there was for WWE. I really hope that he beats us. I really hope that he comes back, that, like Doug said, they give him a proper push, and they make him a vulnerable character, one that's relatable, not one that is just superhuman, but one that, people want to get behind. And I think they have the ability to do so. So I really, like, nothing but the best for him, and I really do pray that he beats us.
I completely agree. I just hope he beats us, so when he comes back, we can boo the crap out of him. That's a weird thing to say, but it's kind of like Cena. When he's gone, you're like, I wish he was back. Then when he comes back, you're like, yeah, boo.
But Andy, that actually does. So this brings up, I guess, like, I think if you frame it as, if this cancer is worked into the story of he came back from this, are you honestly going to now say that if you're booing him, you're cheering cancer?
So you heard it here first.
Oh,
Andy
no.
is pro cancer.
Oh, jeez. All right, so he vacates the Universal title. So that's going to be, there's going to be a winner at Crown Jewel. So we have Brock Lesnar versus Braun Strowman, and they're going to be going. They're going to win. Someone's going to win the title. So, Doug, who do you think's going to win the Universal title then at Crown Jewel? Because, do you think it's the time to put it on Strowman? Or do you think Lesnar, we just need to give it to Lesnar for now?
I think this is a perfect time to let Vacant retain the title in a match. The poor fella has just never been able to retain a title match, and I think it's time to put it back on. Let him hold it for a little bit. No, in all seriousness, I don't know if Strowman Definitely don't give it back to Brock. I'm going to be picking Strowman in this one. I think the Brock experiment ran its course. You did the best that you could with Brock, and this is the best time to, I guess, promote Strowman to be a lucky winner of the unlucky, unfortunate event. It seems to be happening a lot with Universal titles, I think, but Strowman's going to win. That way they can keep the belt on Raw. But I do not know if this is technically his time to be it.
Yeah, and I think that Strowman is going to get the title by default. Roman most likely would have pinned one of them, with like some shenanigans, and Roman would have continued to hold the title. But at this point in time, I mean, I think you have to do Strowman. You could potentially do Lesnar, but my recollection is that the fight that he is planning on doing, I want to say, is at the end of December or middle of December, I want to say. And if Survivor Series is in, middle, end of November, can you really have him kind of train for both of those? I'm thinking no. I'm thinking that you have to focus instead on one or the other. And so I just don't see Lesnar winning. Now, they could swerve us. They could just do what they did at WrestleMania this last year and have Lesnar, win. And then we're going to see Lesnar AJ too. It's a possibility. I don't know. But I think that you kind of have to. I feel like you have to have Strowman win it in this case. But then I feel like at Survivor Series, when you see Strowman versus AJ, I don't know if that's a match I really want to see, because I kind of feel bad for AJ that he's just going to get ragdolled again like he did the previous year. So I don't know. But yeah, Strowman's my pick for this.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting match. I really hope Braun wins, but I think it seems like no matter who wins the title, they end up getting hurt. So in that case, still, I think Strowman's the right choice. But so something happened. You can't trust anyone. So Seth and Dean, they win the tag titles, and then Dean turns on Seth. Aaron, do you think this is the right time to do this?
So I think that they did it at a time where it was very emotionally high, and it makes Dean look even worse than what would have happened if it happened maybe 3-4 weeks from now. You do it after they win the title, and that makes it, you didn't expect it to happen. The thing is, though, you now have 3 titles. I guess it was essentially 2 titles, right? Wrapped up in a storyline that doesn't need a title, right? You don't need to have the IC title or the tag titles involved with Seth and Dean. Those titles can go away. In fact, if anything else, what are you going to do with the tag titles? You're going to have to take them off them at some point in time. So are you going to just strip them? I don't think that's a good idea. So you're going to force them to defend, and then they're going to lose the titles in a predictable match. And then you have the IC title. They don't need the IC title. Get it off of them. Have it go to somebody else. There are other people on that roster that I feel could use that type of push, and that's what I think they need to do. The feud itself between them, I think, is probably going to be fine. I think it's going to be good. Maybe too early. This might have been a WrestleMania-worthy feud, but, we're going to get it probably at Survivor Series or the December pay-per-view.
Just bad timing in general. Choose the breakup on the same day that Roman Reigns announces that he's leukemia and has to step away from the thing. What better time to get people to be behind the Shield and have sympathy for them and let them go on and be the tag teams? Like, you could have had, and Seth doesn't need both. He absolutely does not need to be both. Why give them the titles? I mean, and then have them break up? Why not just let Ziggler and McIntyre, right? Why not let them have the tag team titles and then have Dean face off against Seth for the Intercontinental title? That could be a good feud. Should be the feud. But like Aaron says, you have too many titles wrapped up in these 2 people now. It's just bad timing in general of everything, and I think one bad happening, and then WWE writers have no idea what to do, so they just throw everything out there and hope something will go and stick.
And Roger, do you think that the whole thing with Seth and Dean, do you think that it's again, you can't trust any of your friends?
Trust issues, folks. If there's anything the last year and a half has told me, is trust no one. I have a question. the Ambrose heel turn has pretty much been one of the most anticipated things that we've probably had for the Shield. Why was this done on a random episode of Raw after they won the tag team titles and not, I don't know, maybe a bigger stage like SummerSlam? They can't do the Shield right after their initial run. That initial run with the Shield was perfect. Seth Rollins ended them and turned it. They should have never reunited because the last two return tours, which is stupid because they only broke up 4 years ago. So they've now gotten back together twice in 4 years, has been dumb. Like, cool, Ambrose won the championship with Rollins and picked now to turn on him? Why? What is the reason for him to? This doesn't even make sense. Whatever. I mean, I get that they were forced into a corner because obviously they couldn't anticipate what happened with Roman, so fine. But this was not the right time. I mean, I think heel Ambrose will be good, but what a wasted opportunity, which is pretty much, it might as well be the WWE's motto.
All right, let's move on to DX versus the Brothers of Destruction. Will be happening at Crown Jewel. Roger, I know that you're a big HBK fan. Are you excited for this?
If you watch the memory of it was, like, if you loved Power Rangers growing up, don't go back and watch it as an adult. It'll kill it. I love Shawn Michaels, and I won't doubt the man can probably wrestle better than 80% of the roster now. But this is what he retired over a decade ago. I think he's in his 50s. He's not going to be the HBK we remember. I have no interest. I mean, we only have to go back to last night and watching Trish and Lita fumble around the ring, and it's like, Father Time is undefeated. If I watched Michael Jordan play basketball right now, it would not be pretty. Well, I don't want to watch Shawn Michaels wrestle right now at the age of 50 whatever and fail to even come close to that ridiculously high bar that he set for himself, especially in a match that has, I don't care about this. Like, yay. Him and Undertaker are feuding over the lack of respect. There's nothing about this match and this show that makes me interested. And I never thought I would say that. But look, I'm going to watch because it's Shawn Michaels and I get to see him wrestle again. But I would be surprised if he's not massively protected. I'm sure he'll do all the spots that we saw him do at Super Showdown with super kicks and all that stuff. But he ain't going to be out there doing moonsaults. So this ain't Shawn Michaels 80. This ain't 87, 97, and not even 2007. This is Shawn Michaels of 2018. Come on, man.
Can this match be a buried alive match where all four fall in and be done?
Don't even joke like that.
Like, I just want them all to fall in, and then maybe not Triple H. Triple H can be the one that actually buries them and says, "That's how you do it, Gregory."
Hashtag too soon?
I'm just thinking of, what was it? That tag match that they had on TNA.
Yeah,
No,
I
you're talking about Tag Team Apocalypto?
Yes, where Gregory Holmes said, this was such a great burial, even the man with 3 H's would be approved.
Yeah.
Yeah, good times.
Yeah. I echo Roger's thoughts, and I just feel like, Shawn stayed away for so long. He could have had a match with Daniel Bryan when there was that feud going on, which would have made more sense. There was a tease about him and AJ potentially, and, I remember Shawn had said, well, why would I do that? Because, there's nothing at stake here. If AJ wins, right? That's the expectation. What if I win? Nothing's going to happen from it. So he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's stupid. I'm going to stay away. And then they're like, hey, how about we give you $2 million? He's like, yeah, sure. When can I go? It was expected. It was like, yeah, I will do that. I will totally take $2 million to wrestle and do a tag team match where I'm actually wrestling for probably 5 minutes, if not less. I'm sure that he was very excited to do that. It's unfortunate. The match is not going to be very good. And I feel like after watching this match, I'm probably going to say, yeah, he was probably right to retire when he did. He retired on a high note. Obviously it wasn't the apex of his career, but it was, close enough to it. He was still having awesome matches. His match with Taker the previous year was, one of WWE's best matches they've ever done, plain and simple. And so, yeah, he retired at the right time. This is kind of, we're going to do a reunion tour. And yeah, I know that we're 20 years past our last album, but we're going to try it again. We're going to see what happens. So I don't expect much of this. I expect it to be the main event, and I really don't expect to be very good.
You remember when Brett Favre had that really good season at 39? Mm-hmm. He took the Vikings to the NFC Championship game, and we're like, wow, he might be able to play for another 5 years. And then he couldn't. And he just sucked. Well, Shawn Michaels left at age 39. He's coming back basically 10 years later. Brett Favre would suck in the current NFL. I hate to say this because Shawn Michaels is my favorite wrestler of all time, but he's going to suck in the current WWE. Like, this is anything is going to be a miracle if he pulls out a great match out here, because there's just no way. He hasn't wrestled full time in X amount of years, and his body has to be broken down. I mean, dude, his hairline. Does he have a hairline?
No, it's shaved, remember?
No, I've tried to block that memory out of my mind because Shawn Michaels was the epitome of cool when I was a kid, but that was 20 years ago. Let it go, Shawn. I don't blame him for taking the $2 million. Let me be very clear. I'd have done the exact same thing without a hesitance. Cry about my legacy all you want to. But as a fan, this hurts. Like, this is going to suck.
So it should be a hair versus hair match?
Oh my god.
Him and Kane going.
It should be a hair versus hair match.
Him, Kane, Undertaker, Triple H, all of them that used to have nice long hair, and now none of them do.
Well, Taker still has his. I mean, it's stringy,
okay.
but yeah.
I think it was WCW years ago. They had like a main event that had like Piper, Hogan, Savage, and maybe Hart. And there was the famous sign that said WCW, welcome to Jurassic Park.
Oh no. Oh.
Well, how the tables have turned, because welcome to Jurassic Park. I could say a lot of things about the Stone Age, and I'll leave it at that.
All right. So again, happy Rusev Day to everyone. He is facing Aiden English, or is that done?
Yeah, so apparently that feud is over. They had their match on SmackDown, and Rusev squashed him.
So
Yeah.
Good build up.
So, all right. So the thing with Rusev and like the Rusev Day stuff got over really big. And then Aiden English was in there and he was really helping out and people were getting behind him. And then Lana was in there and there was like friction that was being caused. And that was interesting. And he thought maybe Rusev was going to turn on English at some point. And instead it was the reverse. English turned on Rusev and you were like, whoa, that's interesting. And it kind of built some dynamic there, even though Rusev should win the feud. You're like, wow, that's actually kind of interesting. And then they strung out over a couple of weeks about, one night in English or one night in Milwaukee is what it was, right? They were talking about what happened with him and Lana in Milwaukee. And I was interested. I was actually fascinated with it. I thought that they were going to kind of, when I found out that the match was going to happen, I thought they were going to kind of try to duck out of it. Like English was going to take a count out victory or a count out a loss or something like that. Instead, no, he just gets squashed. And I'm very confused. I'm not saying that they should have a Survivor Series match, but you can have a feud take place and get concluded on normal TV. And they kind of did this, and they kind of did it in the span of like a week. And so I don't know where to go from here because they kind of buried English's character. So unless over the next few weeks of SmackDown in November, they do something to really build him back up, October, they just completely decimated him, I feel.
I wouldn't be surprised if you find out that Aiden English has a wellness policy violation. Because that's what it feels like, is that this was something they were building up, and then all of a sudden, yeah, it's over. Let's not talk about it anymore. Look over here. And that's about all I feel about it. Is I never thought, I feel bad for Rusev, who would be the only, I guess, contender for Fallen from Grace, but his problem was he never got as high as he should have. But he just went from fighting AJ. He had one match for the title. And then after that, your next feud is with Cien Almas, which was a setup for Aiden English. Good job, Rusev. Glad your career is going somewhere.
Good job, WWE.
No kidding.
Creative. What are they doing with him? Seriously.
Did Lana say something backstage that has gotten them all mad again?
Oh, you haven't been watching the new Total Divas? Doug, you have to. Okay, so there's a really cool storyline going on with her.
Just stop. I can't even watch the mixed tag match anymore because it's just gotten to a big joke.
Why does WWE hate successful tag teams? Aiden English was doing nothing. He's going to do nothing after this feud, but he was a perfect mouthpiece for Rusev. And the one thing that Rusev doesn't do well is promo, because it's not his natural. He does a funny promo, but as far as like hyping up the crowd, that's where Aiden English is great. These three, Aiden, Lana, and Rusev, should have stayed together. They should have never broken up. There's no money in this feud to be had. We weren't going to launch Rusev into superstardom with this feud. Let them stay together and let them be a good tag team. Let them finally cash in and take the belt. Let Rusev challenge for singles titles. So, when he goes against a guy like Nakamura, for example, which could have been a very fun feud, and that may be a way to counter the low blows is the distraction. So now you have somebody playing mind games with Nakamura. Oh my God, look at that. In 5 minutes, I just found a program for both the United States champion and Rusev. Instead, they do the stupid wellness policy violation looking storyline where Aiden is just getting buried. Like the type of burial that would make the man with 3 H's very proud, because Aiden English has no future. I wouldn't be surprised if he was future endeavored next week, to be quite honest, because there's nowhere for him to go. He just got destroyed by Rusev. The whole storyline was going nowhere. This was a mistake, much like I said with American Alpha, much like I said with Enzo and Cass, much like I said with way too many tag teams. There are some people whose ceiling is mid-card to lower upper card, and that's fine. But you don't have to break up a tag team to let them go for single stuff. You could have just let them continue doing the Rusev Day stuff. Oh, wait, it was over. So, of course, it has to be over in the WWE's mind.
Yep, so that happened. So, anyways, let's thank our sponsor, HostGator. Are you a blogger or podcaster, or are you just not happy with your web host? You need to check out HostGator.com. You're going to find web hosting made easy and affordable. HostGator offers unlimited disk space, unlimited bandwidth, one-click stream results that frees up ability hands on the best control panel out there. Stop by today and try a free demo. It's the easiest. And if you use a special coupon code, off the mark, you're going to save 25% off your web hosting packages. So what are you going to lose? Check out HostGator.com and take a bite out of your web hosting costs. Also, make sure you check out Section 86's Off the Mark page and click on the banner at the top to see big on items from WWEshop.com. And let's talk about the biggest news that happened in NXT just recently. So it was revealed who attacked Aleister Black. Roger, who was it?
It is the biggest babyface since Daniel Bryan. Mr. Wrestling himself, Johnny Gargano, was revealed to be the man who took out Aleister before the match at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. And you know what? I'm very skeptical. I was very surprised because I thought he was such a massive babyface that you could never turn him heel. But I will say this. I give NXT the benefit of the doubt. I like the idea of Gargano sinking to the levels of Ciampa-like, because he felt like he needed the shot so badly that he was willing to do whatever it took. And I think there's a great redemption arc to be said here, because instead of just guy loses, wins, and comes back, he actually has to redeem himself in the fans of his eye, in the eyes of the fans, maybe in the eyes of his wife. I think with Candice LeRae, you could really talk about how she disappointed him as a person. So I really think you could do some good storytelling here. And of course, Ciampa can now really hold this over Gargano's head of, you don't have a moral high ground to stand on. You stoop to my level to come after me. This could be really, really good storytelling.
Yeah, and the best part is
fantastic.
And the best part is that, and the other thing I want to throw in here too, to sidetrack a little bit, but with NXT being able to do this is a thing where like Gargano would be, if he goes to SmackDown or even Raw, no one's going to care about it. But like, because you only get a little bit of each week, and this storyline's been going on for what, like 6 months, it feels like, and it's unreal. It's just so cool that they've been able to stretch this out and then to reveal that's Gargano. Holy shnikes. I mean, it's a big deal.
I think it's been actually interesting to watch the downfall of Johnny Gargano in that aspect of he was doing a lot of heelish things, even as the baby face. To actually confirm it, though, and make him go full heel, I applaud NXT for this. I think this is a great move, and I think that this is something that NXT might have been. I don't know if you're necessarily lacking heels in NXT, but what a better way to continue storyline even with Aleister Black and not the title. That's one thing I've loved about NXT is I care about their storyline so much, and only a couple of them involve titles. The rest of them are just good feuds. So now we're going to get to see Aleister Black probably versus Johnny Gargano, not for a title. And everybody will be excited to watch it. Why? Because it's a good setup. It's a good feud. It's a good storyline. Thank you, NXT, for showing that you can do this and not have a title on the line, and it can still feel like a big match.
Absolutely. And I agree with both of you guys' thoughts on that. I think that Johnny Gargano, and I think that's something that NXT does well, is I don't know, Johnny necessarily turned heel when he revealed himself to be the attacker, as opposed to what Doug had mentioned, where he kind of been doing some heelish things. Like in Johnny Gargano's mind as the face, he was attacked by Ciampa, and then down the line, obviously Ciampa got involved. They had their big no disqualification or unsanctioned match, and you see kind of what's going on, and you see the breakdown of that character, and to the fact that he attacked Aleister Black because he wanted Ciampa that bad. That kind of shows the lengths that he was going to. And so he was doing some heelish things, even though he's kind of a face. And that shows a shade of gray. Then that shows a complexity in that character. Where if you're watching something like a Game of Thrones and you see somebody like a Jaime Lannister character, who in the first couple seasons you probably hate him, and then later on you kind of see him evolve, and you're like, oh, I kind of get why he did some of the things, and I may not agree with that, but I get what's going on with that character. And I kind of feel that way with Johnny Gargano, and that's why watching NXT is so much more of a joy than it is watching a Raw or SmackDown, which sometimes can be a chore. And that's that. I feel like they've just been doing a much better job of storytelling and long-term storytelling on top of that. And it is easier when you only do have an hour of TV to produce a week, but nonetheless, it's just it is heads above everything else WWE is doing.
All right, I echo your thoughts. NXT is still one of my favorite shows, and of course they started the NXT UK brand earlier this month, and it's been pretty cool to watch just the UK version of NXT. So great Wrestling Wednesday. That's the best time. You got 2 great hours with 205 Live in them. So also one big announcement that we need to make. So it's confirmed the Off the Mark crew will be in Phoenix for Royal Rumble and Takeover. So we'll be there. We'll give you our thoughts on it. It'll be nice to get the 4 of us together in that location and watch some great wrestling. Aaron, are you excited?
Oh yeah, no, I'm super excited. I've never seen Royal Rumble before. I know Doug had gone to one in Phoenix already, and actually the one in Georgia as well.
Orlando.
Orlando. I'm sorry. And so yeah, I mean I think it's gonna be really cool to be able to see it. And there's no big favorite right now, to win this year's Royal Rumble. So who knows what we're gonna see?
It'll be nice to get us all together. So we'll have a nice long weekend with lots of wrestling. Doug, will we have internet, by the way?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Where did you think you were staying?
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't sure if there was going to be internet there. I'll bring my Roku. We'll be able to stream the network the entire time.
Is there internet? Is there running water, Doug?
Yeah.
Out of curiosity.
Do they have
Will we have
toilets? Is there a toilet? Do I need to bring
What
a
about
bucket?
refrigeration? Yeah.
Yes, do they have the
Talking
new
about?
icebox thing that they're talking about?
we will be in a nice gated community. I think we'll be okay.
Okay. All right. Looking forward to it. So.
I will say this, and Doug, maybe you can confirm this as well. When you've seen a Rumble live, it is unlike any other event in WWE. There is something very special about the countdown, the excitement, the anticipation. The crowd really does go wild for some of those returns. I've been to one before years ago, actually I think 10 years, the one that Cena came back in Madison Square Garden to win. And it was, the whole night was fun. Just seeing everybody, the entrances, I think we're going to have a really good time. And that wasn't the greatest Royal Rumble ever, but it's still fun to be there live. So even if this is just an okay Rumble, now obviously Doug got to see AJ live on his debut, I think, which is really awesome. But yeah, I mean, and Doug, I'll let you go, but I thought it was a very, very fun time.
I think one of the things that I learned when we all went to WrestleMania is even though we saw mediocre to possibly not even possibly a bottom 5 WrestleMania, it was still fun. It was all 4 of us. We all got together. We all do this because we enjoy it. So going to the Rumble, like Roger said, the Rumble match itself is, or even the Royal Rumble pay-per-view in itself, just the Royal Rumble match itself is worth the go. You get to see so much wrestling. The fact that what was it, Rey Mysterio was the longest Royal Rumble participant at 1 hour 6 minutes. But I bet if you watch, I don't remember what the actual time is. Daniel Bryan technically beat it with the greatest Royal Rumble, but you don't even realize how long that match is because so much stuff is going on. And we've seen great Royal Rumble matches where the storytelling and the setups for future feuds and bringing back old feuds that you kind of forgot about, it's all in that one match. And it's just it is a wrestling magical moment that you get to see everything that happens. And You can have a horrible undercard, but as long as the Royal Rumble match itself is good, then it'll be your whole experience is worth it. And I think that's something that to be able to actually experience it with a friend, let alone 3 friends this time, because the 2 other Royal Rumbles I went by myself, so I didn't get to experience it with anybody. I think that's what's going to make this the better Royal Rumble that I actually get to go to.
Excellent, guys. Yeah, looking forward to seeing everyone there. We'll have a nice recap of NXT. I know that card's going to be that's probably going to be a stat card, and just being able to count down the Royal Rumble, I'm pretty excited about that. So anyway, so that's all the time we have for this month's show. If you're into the Twitter, you follow the show at AltaMark86. I want to thank 86 Productions for hosting and editing the podcast, and I want to thank all of our listeners for taking the time to download and listen to the show. And for Roger Cave, Doug Hahn, and Aaron Hughes, I am Andrew Hughes, and until next time, see you in the ring.